Welcome back. This is episode 2 of Your Content Factory. Thank you for joining us. If you're, don't stop whatever you're doing. If you're mowing the lawn, just turn your volume up. Okay. If you're in a public space, just play it from a speaker so you bother everybody around you. Okay. If you're in the subway, just share it with everybody. Put it on full blast. Hold it up to next to your best friend's ear so they can hear as well. Share it. Or go get one of those, the old school just ear pods with the cable, and you can just pull your earbud out and share with your friend. Do that. But don't stop what you're doing. Thank you for tuning in. Get comfy, because today we're going to be talking about some useful things for you. And I'm sitting on there we go. I was sitting on my headphone cable. Okay. That was not helping me out, but I pushed through it and I got out of there. But today we're going to be helping you with some podcast recording methods. That's what we talked about a little bit last week. We touched on it, and we said we'd give a whole episode to it. So we'll just kind of dive right in. But I hope everyone's had a great week. Thank you again for tuning in. Go ahead and share this if you like, and thank you for listening. But keep an eye out for us. We're on everything: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Now we're on what's the other one? LinkedIn, TikTok. We're all over the place. So. Here we go. So as far as building your content factory, laying this all out there, we're all about consistent content. That's all that matters. So just a little bit of a word of wisdom for y'all. If you're hesitating on starting a podcast because you're worried about lighting, you're worried about audio quality or something like that, or video quality, just know that it doesn't have to be perfect for you to start. If you are going to worry about something at the beginning, audio quality should be your priority, right? Because people are going to listen to this long form piece of content. They're going to be, on the road or whatever. It's got to be enjoyable to listen to wherever they are, whether they're at their gym or on a loud piece of equipment at work or on a road trip or something. Make sure your audio quality is good, but it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Make sure it's good and start. The most important thing for your factory or this, your baseline of your content, which we believe is podcasting in the form of a video podcast. So just want to get that out there. If you're hesitating on starting, this is for anything in life. If you have a dream to quit the football team and be a ballerina, go for it. If you have a dream to stop ballet and go try out for the football team, go for it, right? Just don't put your dreams off anymore. And I don't want to get politically charged, so maybe that wasn't the best example. But like, if you have a dream, if you have something that you know you need to be doing, just get up and go do it. Just get after it. You want to start a podcast? Guess what you have in your phone or in your pocket right now? It's a phone, and I totally ruined that. Let me restart that for the clip. If you have a phone in your pocket right now, get started. Start a podcast. Just do it right away. Or call us and we can help facilitate that. But let's say you've started that podcast now. You've kind of gotten over the perfection. You don't need the best everything yet. That will come eventually. But more importantly, once you get a good audio quality, you get this video podcast up, we want to talk to you about recording methods. What is your recording method? How are you going to capture this video? And you're probably thinking, well, duh, Blake, you dumbass. I'm probably just going to film it. Cool. Excellent. But if you're on a budget or if you're short on time, everybody's budgeting their time. So if you're short on time, if you're running a business, a brand, and you want to launch this podcast to be that foundation for your content creation, right? That's what we're going to do. That's what you need, is you need a podcast. So how do you record it? What's the recording method? Well, a lot of people, they just set up a camera and press record, which is the simplest way to do it. Do it with your phone, do it with a nice camera, right? Maybe have a couple cameras so you can switch and have multiple camera angles. And that's all hunky-dory, right? That's great. That's fine and dandy. But once that's the easy part. You've recorded the podcast. Now what? Well, your recording method is going to dictate to you how much you hate your life as an editor after the fact that it's done, right? So if I set up 2 or 3 camera angles in this studio, which we do have 2 camera angles, in the future, Mal, I think we should probably have all the camera angles up so we can switch around and do some goofy shit. But Yeah, if you want multiple camera angles, it just adds more value to the podcast. But let's say I have 3 camera angles on a type of podcast that's for like a panel discussion. So maybe I have 3 to 4 to 5, 6 people, sometimes more, depending on the what it is. That's a big production. But if you have 2, even 3 people, and you got 2 or 3 camera angles on there, that's a lot of footage. If you go for an hour, you've just tripled the amount of footage that you have and that you have to go through in post-production. Now, there are some amazing tools out there. We'll leave that for another segment, but there are some AI tools that are amazing. If you're doing that method, they can save you a lot of time. But just know this. I'll say this about AI. AI is great. AI is awesome. It's not perfected yet. It's getting better. We're in like AI version 0.01, 0.02. No, I'll be more generous. We're in AI this is like version 1.1 of AI tools. So ChatGPT, there's a whole bunch of them. Munch, Opus Clip, quite a few. We'll discuss in another episode. But they're just tools, right? Just because you have a hammer in your belt, or let me say this, just because you upgrade from a hammer, just because you upgrade from a hammer to a nail gun doesn't mean it's going to build your house for you. You still have to know how to use that nail gun, and you still have to know how to frame the house, right? So an AI tool is just a tool. It's like upgrading from a hammer to a nail gun. You can be a lot faster and a lot more efficient. So there are some AI tools that can help you in your post-production, but they're not perfect all the time. Sometimes they get confused. The AI software is always being, improved. They need more data. They need more people using it. It takes time, blah, 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 right? So I've had people tell me that, well, I could just use an AI. Yes, you can, but do you trust that AI perfectly to go back and is it going to do the work that you envision? So in this instance, right, when we're talking about podcast recording methods, if I set up multiple camera angles, press record, boop, 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 on 3 cameras, let's say, I record an hour-long podcast, so that's 3 hours of footage, 1 hour on each camera angle, and then I go back, and now I have to export that into an editing software, whatever you use. We use Adobe. Maybe it's Final Cut, right? We could do a whole nother episode just on softwares you should be using for editing. But yeah, it's quite involved. So I have to go take those memory cards out of each camera, and then I have to load them onto the computer, and then I have to place them into a timeline so all 3 angles are in the same timeline. And then I have to manually go through, and when person A is talking to person B, when person A is talking, I have to make sure they're at the top, they're visible, and cut out person B and C. And then when person C takes over and starts talking, you just have to be really shuffling those camera angles around. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's a very hands-on, that's a very traditional sense of editing. A lot of videographers do that with their projects, right? So a videographer who comes into the podcasting space, they like, hey, I got all this equipment. I've done, so many video projects helping people make commercials or custom videos or following people around at events and helping build their YouTube channel. They're like, yeah, I could do a podcast. Totally. And they're right. They can. They do a great job. But a lot of times they do their traditional editing, right? Because a custom video is way different than a podcast. And so they'll come into the podcasting space, and we see this all the time. At Blueform Media, by the way, I didn't shout Blueform out, but this is Your Content Factory, episode 2, Blueform Media. This is our baby. And we do a little bit different approach, but we've been kind of laughed out of some spaces because we don't charge enough. And it took us a bit to understand why. We're like, well, yeah. And they're like, you have so much work. We tell them how many clients we do and how many episodes we record and everything. And they're thinking as a traditional videographer or video editor. And so they know what that translates to on the post-production side, and they can't fathom it. They're like, holy shit, how are you doing that? And you're like, you're not charging near enough. And we're like, yeah, because we do a different method of recording, which we'll get into in a second. But that traditional method of, setting up the cameras, pressing record, 1 hour of content, it probably takes that editor, a good editor, maybe 4 hours. A new editor, probably double that, 8 hours for you to clip up your podcast if it's an hour long, right? And you're going with 3 camera angles, which is overkill, I think, in starting a podcast. That's for more advanced people. But at the same time, the advanced podcasters, they're not doing that method, or they're doing it with an AI tool to help speed it up. So let's say we'll keep the scenario rolling though. I've recorded 3 camera angles and I've all put them into my my editing software, and it's going good. But I'm just taking my time and I'm doing all that. So the 8 hours I'm spending on getting the podcast watchable is time I could be spending on creating more content or repurposing content or taking that long form content into a shorter form content and then into a micro content of a vertical video. So it's just more time, which is the downside, because time is money. Everybody knows that. So that's the traditional method. Now, what speeds that up is an AI that's in Adobe Premiere. Mal, do you remember the AI that's what that's called? Yeah, we should probably leave that. So I'll wait for you to find that, and we'll shout it out in the podcast if somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I need this AI." It's on that Sean Cannell clip if you could pull it up. But that AI tool is basically a plug-in to Adobe Premiere. I think there's another version of it or a different AI that plugs in with Final Cut Pro. But basically, you can tell that AI to take those 3 video angles from each camera, and the AI will determine who's talking based on facial patterns as the sound. As long as those audios are synced up, as long as the video is synced up with the audio, that AI should be able to do it pretty well. But there are some hiccups there because the AI isn't perfect. And so, yeah, it cuts out 90% of your work, but you're still taking time of making those mistakes. And you have to go through and watch that still. And I don't know, I wouldn't trust an AI like that, especially if I have 3 camera angles with 2 or 3 people talking. If it's a very vibrant conversation, if it's very, if people are laughing or chiming in and there's a lot of noise for that AI to decipher, that's where there's a lot of hiccups. And we've seen that with almost every AI tool we've used. Again, those tools are great, but even again, back to the nail gun analogy, if I upgrade to a nail gun, there's still times where I need a hammer. I still need a human touch. That nail gun's not going to build the house by itself. So I might use the nail gun for 90%. Oh, Mal's back. She's got it. What is it? Autopod. Okay, if you're listening and you're in Premiere Pro and you've recorded 3 separate camera angles in the same podcast conversation, Autopod is a great AI tool. I've heard about it months ago. The only reason I've researched it is because we're trying to add value to you guys here, but we do it a completely different method. So Autopod is great. But yeah, if you're trying to build that house right with the analogy, you're going to go back to a hammer occasionally. Sometimes there's a spot where the hammer is the right tool for the job. So that still needs a human touch on those AI tools. So whether you're using an AI like Munch or Opus to help you extract some clips for those vertical videos, there still needs to be a human touch on those. Right. It doesn't. And people are really concerned. I saw a lot of buzz about this months ago, but people are really concerned that AI tools are going to lose people jobs. And it's kind of interesting. Gary Vee said some stuff. Other people have said things about it, but this has happened in many, many industries throughout time. You know, farmers were concerned about, big harvesters and combines that came and like change the amount of food we could produce. And a lot of farmers lost their jobs, but the farmers that use these tools actually got better, right? Same with computers. It was going to take everybody's jobs, but all it did is just it just made more jobs, right? It just changes how things are done. So these AI tools are awesome. It's not going to take away your job if you're an editor. The people that use these tools are going to be, light years ahead of everybody that don't. So that's kind of the first method that we're discussing here is recording 3 separate angles or 2, and then compiling that into a video software or editing software and getting that compiled into a watchable, enjoyable episode. The AI tool can be awesome, but it's still going to take a human touch. So there will be some times where you'll have to go in and manually change those things, but that AI tool should knock it down. There are some advantages to that, though. let's talk about pros and cons. So if you're doing a traditional recording and a traditional editing like that, where you gather that recording like that, yeah, you're going to have some pros. The pros are that you are capturing, even if the camera is not on the person or they're not speaking, you're still capturing their facial, their reaction, right? So if someone's telling a joke, someone starts laughing a little earlier, right? Or they start chuckling, or they start pondering, whatever their facial expression is, or just them nodding along, that can be used to enhance the podcast. You can, in post-production, you can cut back and forth to those reactions, and really it's great. So that's one thing that's pro. That's awesome. But the cons, I think, outweigh the pros in this method, especially when we have so many other options. If we didn't, that's a different story. But the cons, amount of time and amount of human energy it takes to do that, attention to detail, and then knowledge and know-how within those platforms to take it from an 8-hour process if you're a noob, all the way down to a pro who could do it in 2 to 3 to 4 hours, depending. So big learning curve, that's another con. But anyway, that's the first method. It's more traditional. I guess there's a few other methods we won't cover on this episode. Maybe I touch on them a little bit. But the second method that we use at Blueform Media is a live production method. That's what we call it. Live production. So there's a lot of tools out there to make this happen. And this is the best way, in my opinion, to record a podcast or to record anything, is a live production. So if you have multiple camera angles like we normally do in this studio, there's another camera right here for me that captures this guest or this chair over here. So, of course, you'll be seeing people on here as well. That is all switched manually by our regular Vanna White behind the scenes. The brainchild behind everything is Mal in the studio. Mal, give us a yell. Hello. Yeah, she's not mic'd up today. Because we're doing this kind of hastily, but yeah, it's awesome. So Mal was in here. We've got this. This is a permanent studio setup. And Mal, actually, could you come and zoom us out? I'd like everybody to see the inner workings of our studio a little bit, and we'll showcase this in some YouTube videos and other places. But if you're watching this on YouTube, we got the dogs coming in today. Yeah, just zoom it out so they can see the inner workings. But this is our studio here. This TV is awesome. It's all permanent. Everything you see here, every background behind me is actually modular, if you can see those ropes. So we have so many options to convert this into kind of a customized space for a lot of our clients. But a permanent studio and then having a live production is huge. So we take our post-production process, and we maybe do, as far as video goes, we do very, very little. We just trim the edges, and then do getting that ready for YouTube. So intro, outro, any advertisements that we might be running, any other promotions that our podcasts are doing, or pre-recordings that we have, we drop those in, and it makes the process so much better because we're doing the production live. So Mal is switching camera angles. She's adjusting audio levels, getting voice profiles for each person on these mics. There's a lot to it, but we do all the work up front. So we're just there editing the podcast as it happens. Now, there's a ton of know-how and there's a ton of nuance to setting this up, and it takes a lot of time for someone to develop these skills. That's why I think it's most advantageous for you, if you're wanting to start a podcast and you want to start right away, use a team that's already created. Use us. Go find somebody else who can understand this, and they can get you off the ground a lot quicker. But you do need two people. It takes two to tango. Even if I'm just here monologuing, Mal's still on the controls, right? She's adjusting audio levels, doing all sorts of things. If we have a guest, it's a lot more involved, so she's switching camera angles and things like that. But I believe that's the best way to record a podcast, hands down, is a live production. So the method in which we do that, actually, let's talk about studios real quick. We'll wrap up with that since I brought it up. This is a permanent studio. This is Blueform Media's HQ, located in southern Utah. If you guys are in the area and you want to use this studio for anything, we have people come in here just to read audiobooks. We just created an isolation booth in the other room. We're actually turning each spare bedroom of our home into different studios. One's more of a lounge. We're going to have an area to smoke cigars. We're going to do a lot. And that's coming soon. But right now, if you want a place to come record, all people do is get here and they record for an hour and they leave. And we handle the rest, which is awesome. The other option with studio is we can come to you, right? Or if you're out of state and you're not in Utah, somebody can come to your location. We know that some people do that. Jefferson Rogers has an awesome studio. I'd like to go do a podcast for this podcast at his studio just to show you guys. And we can talk about the details of his podcast. But having this stuff already set up, all this is ready to go, we come in, turn the lights on and go, is super helpful if you're trying to be as consistent as possible with your content. Like, eliminate all of the tedious work you can. That's my advice to you. And if that means hiring somebody to come to your house and set up the podcast, that's great, because that just means longevity for you, right? Because if you're busy like us, right, if you're running a business, you're running a family, a lot of you have kids, a lot of you have companies, whatever it is, there's only so much you can do. And if you watched our last week, episode 1, we were talking about how much time it takes to actually run a podcast. That was just the back end. It was about 25 to 30 hours on average is what it takes for you to fully produce and edit a podcast and then distribute that content to social media, and probably more, to be honest. And all of that, it's consistent effort every day. So if you want to post, try posting once on 4 platforms back to back to back to back. Okay, I'm going to log into YouTube and post. I'm going to log into Facebook and post. And so you're posting the same clip, the same piece of content, but do that and try and work that into your schedule right now. It's tough. It's way tough, especially because there's no returns. You maybe get a little bit of a dopamine if people are liking your shit, commenting and interacting with you, right? You get some dopamine, but it's hard to do that for years and years and years and really create a following. So the most successful people in social media, they have fantastic teams, and they're willing to pay people for the tedium that it's required to do this. Finding hashtags on social media posts is tedious to me, right? Writing descriptions, like all those things. So if you can, outsource that out, but don't beat yourself up as well. Let's back up now and be a little bit more realistic. So we constantly hear on social media how we should be living our lives, especially if you're in the self-help area or you're into the self-help books, if you're reading stuff, if you're paying attention to, Jocko Willink and all these guys talking about self-improvement and how to be and how to live. We constantly beat ourselves up. It's really easy to say, oh man, I'm not doing these things, or I should be this way. And we make a list of 8 things, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things to do or to change, and we get burnt out. But if you just start small with one thing and then make that a skill that's mastered, or make it a part of your your habits, make it a habit. Pick one thing, make it a habit, and then move on. And next thing you know, you've got those 2 or 3 or 4 things, but it takes time. And a lot of clips and a lot of people out there, they emphasize how much time it takes, but I think there's a disconnect. We as people, we don't always make that time work, or it doesn't register into our mind that time is there because we get impatient, right? I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I should have now. I've done one podcast. Where's my sponsorships? Like, it just doesn't work like that, right? It's consistent. You got to be consistently making content all the time, even when you don't feel like it. Even today, I would probably feel like doing this podcast more if I had a guest, which we will have on. But I'm like, oh shit, I got to do this because it's a monologue. It's on my shoulders. So eliminating that, having a team around you in every way is going to help you eliminate the tedium, right? That's why we're talking about methods of podcast recording, because if you record a podcast, this is the fun part. Talking to people, talking into a mic, talking about what you're passionate about, that's easy. So easy. It's so easy a caveman could do it, right? That's how easy it is. Like, a caveman can just get in here and grunt and, pick fleas out of his hair. But the after the podcast is recorded is when the work starts. The work, right? Not many people have the time to go slave over and edit and get that up by a certain deadline so they're consistent. It's just not always feasible. So build a team, get rid of the tedium, research methods on how to record this stuff. Because if you go into a traditional edit and you're not using any AI tools like that, you will get burnt out. Now, unless you have all the time in the world, go for it. All the time and money, and you're just retired, sitting on a beach, like, you can edit a little bit. You could start a podcast. You could do all that. It just takes time. So come to Your Content Factory for some resources. Come to our YouTube channel. YouTube is your best friend. It's basically the best university out there. So go research that. But a lot of work goes into this. So eliminating the tedium, having your own studio as well is eliminating the tedium. All these successful people that are out there, they eliminate all the tedium in their life. I know people that they're very protective of what they call decision fatigue. They don't want to make decisions. They don't want to make a decision what they're eating. They already know what they're eating, right? It's already there. It's already in the fridge. It's already meal prepped. It's already there. Or the chef, if they're rich enough, the chef is already making it. I don't have to think about it. They don't have a wide variety of clothing. It's just there. They know that these shirts are comfortable. These colors they look good in. They know they've already bought the suits that they need to look professional in a business setting in. They've already bought that apparel. It's just there, and they just wake up and put it on. There's no like, oh no, what am I going to wear to the ball? And oh no, what am I going to eat? Like, think about the decisions you make in a day. Oh man, what am I going to podcast? Like, if you're worried about what you're going to wear and what you're going to eat and, all these things that you have to make these decisions on throughout your day, it's probably going to be very stressful for you to make decisions about a podcast or about work, right? If you're already fatigued by the time you pull into the office because you had to pick out what shoes to wear, your outfit, you had to figure out what you're going to eat, what coffee to get, like those people are just not successful because they have so much decision fatigue throughout the day. And it's the same thing with doing a podcast or doing something consistent. If you have so many things that jump in the way, you just won't be consistent at it. So I'm horrible at going to the gym, as you could tell. I'm not in the peak shape. I'm doing all right, though. I've made a lot of small changes in my diet, doing the carnivore diet, thanks to the guys at Solid. Shout out to Jeff and Brandon. But they, I'm just sick of like asking for information and not acting on it. It's annoying. They call them ask holes. I'm sick of that. I stopped doing that probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It was kind of a gradual shift. But I was just kind of skating through life. So I started making all these small changes, just small change at a time. And I found that I'm not against working out. I don't hate working out. I actually love it. I just hate the build up to get there because I go to bed and I'm like, shit, I didn't pack a bag for the gym. Or I get to the gym and I'm like, damn it. I didn't pack a hygiene kit so I could shower at the gym. And now I'm like rushing to work and I smell like butt because I forgot some deodorant, So those little things, they drive me nuts. And that's how it was in the military as well, is all this preparation goes into these things to eliminate what you have to think about. If I'm thinking about where I packed my extra socks in my backpack as an infantryman in the Marines, I'm not thinking about if there's an enemy around that corner, right? I'm all worried about, did I leave the iron on? I forgot. And then I just get smoked. Just, I hope I brought my gummy bears. That's a real thing, by the way. Infantrymen know you need that pogey bait out there. So building a process around packing my bag as an infantryman was more important than me, the tedium. Eliminating the tedious thing, I would prep all of my socks and underwear, and everybody knows this. You prep everything. Everything is prepped. Everything is neatly organized. You pack it the same way every time, so you know where everything is. So you don't even have to think about it. So when you have to rush at 4 a.m. to make a formation, you're already ready to go, right? You got it laid out. That's why people love the military. I don't have to make any decisions. You don't have to decide what to wear in the military. You just put your uniform on. You don't have to decide what to eat. You just know at 7 a.m., from this time to this time, the chow hall's open. I got to go stuff my face. And then you just choose there. But it's like it's all laid out there. You're like, oh, I want some chili, some cake, and some Gatorade. And so there's no decisions, right? So a lot of guys get out of the military and they have a hard time with that. Now they have to decide some shit. They got to go to work, and they got to not to say they never use their brains in the military. It's very intensive. It's a lot of smart people out there, but a lot of it too is kind of dumb. You don't got to use your brain. You're in order following mode. But when you go to create something, there's so much initiative that has to be taken. You cannot waste any energy on the tedious things that you need to decide. So, kind of a tangent, but it's very applicable to starting your podcast, because we decided one time that this Rode pod mic was the mic for us. I don't have to decide what mic I'm using every time I spin up a podcast. Right? I bought the equipment. I made the decision once. It's set up. And nothing is getting in the way from me other than me putting on some clothes and clicking some buttons. I come in here. It's minimal effort. I can hit record. Even if Mal was gone, I could go to her computer right now, press record, and walk back in here and do a podcast by myself. Now, it's a little bit more intensive if there's two people here. But even if we had to, very minimal, I could basically pull her interface over here and have it right here, and I could switch cameras as I talk, as the guest talks. There's some people that do that, totally fine, and that's a method, but we have options now. I don't need to make decisions about this stuff. I don't need to decide what headphones are good. I've already done that, right? And so that's one thing for studio setup. Solid, the guys that a podcast and a brand that we love to work with, they have a studio set up at Brandon Neal's house, and we come over an hour early and we set everything up, and then once we're done, we break it down, and it tucks away nice and neat under a countertop in his garage, and it's out of the way. And then we come back and rinse and repeat every week. And so, but we make it so easy for them; they don't have to do anything. They just have to show up, sit in front of the cameras, talk about stuff, and then they leave. And that's how we want to make it, because we're going for consistency. We're going for longevity, right? So if you're looking to podcast and make consistent content, do that. Make it as easy as possible for yourself. So building your own studio is helpful. I think that's how Eric Gubler is too. I got to have him on here. I want him to talk about his process of how he's creating this content and how it's getting distributed too. That's a whole nother episode. But right now, just recording your podcast can really set you up for a whole pie, a whole table's full, or whatever length this is. This is probably, we'll say it's 2 feet, 8 inches, I think. Right there. Mal, can you hand me a tape measure? We're going to measure this out. I'm going to guess. This is 2 feet. I'm going to say 2 feet, 6 inches right here. So instead of having 2 feet, 6 inches of tedious problems to work with, I need a tape measure here. I haven't moved my hands.
I hope you're absolutely wrong.
I can't do. You have to measure.
No.
You got to measure. I'm holding my hands right here.
Put it at the end for me.
Just put it right there, and I'll hold it with my fingers. I can't move my hands. We have to measure this. What is it? 2 feet?
11.
2 feet, 10 inches, because my finger's a little bit pointed that way. 2 feet, 10. I was 4 inches off. Shit. Anyway, you could have 2 feet, 10 inches worth of tedious stuff, or you could just have zero, right? Eliminate the tedium for consistent results. So setting up and breaking down a podcast is very intensive. Editing a podcast on the back end is very intensive. So when you're setting up to record, can you dedicate a room in your house to have everything already set up? Then it is easy for you. Like today, I could have justified not recording this right now. We have so much to do with our company. I'm like, yeah, it's easy for me to put this on the backside, on the back burner, put this on hold. We're too busy. I'm like, no, we're not too busy because all I got to do is press record. I'm already set up to go, baby. That camera right there, it's already good to go. This mic, it's been here all day. It's just waiting for me. It's just waiting for the next guest. It's waiting for the podcast person. So that tedium is all eliminated. Also, we have a team. So once I get this recorded, I can just shovel that off to a team. And Anna, our wonderful Anna, who is sent from the heavens to be a part of this team, she is a media angel. Okay, she's come down and now she's going to take these clips. And so she's probably editing this clip right now. So thank you, Anna. But it's awesome. All the tedium is eliminated. That way, our podcasters and myself, I can be in my creative flow. I can just be myself. I can just focus on delivering you this knowledge, and I don't have to fear or worry about the tedium to follow. So keep that in mind. How you set your podcast up will enable a lot of consistency or could be the exact barrier that ends up defeating you. Because people stop podcasting all the time. People do 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes and they fall off. I think people do 1 episode and they fall off. Because it's easy to get hyped up about it. It's easy to set it up once. And then they got to take the kids to soccer and violin. And then they got to go to the work meeting. And then the family reunion's coming up. And then also we got tax season. And then everybody, we got to go play. Grandpa's going to die soon. We got to go play Yahtzee with him one more time. We got to do all that. And so setting up a podcast, like I don't know if you've ever been frustrated and you're trying to set up a tripod. Okay. You go bonkers, man. You trip over an XLR cable while you're trying to set that up. Meanwhile, you're missing your kid's soccer practice. But you're here setting up when you could just hit record and go, right? Do you see how this affects your podcast and your content creation? It's like going to the gym. I don't like going to the gym because I forget deodorant. I forget my toothbrush. I forget that. And like sometimes I don't even lay my gym clothes out. I'm like, shit, I'm supposed to be at the gym in 3 minutes. And I'm like, I show up in like jeans. Okay. And I didn't do what I did. I didn't take the time to prep and eliminate the tedium like I did in the military. Right. So I said, screw this. I'm not going to the gym anymore. I'm bringing the gym to me. And you'll see in some of the content we create, I have an awesome gym in the garage because I've spent so much time and effort eliminating just the tedium. I don't have to drive to the gym. Yeah. So I spent, ridiculous amounts of my own money on that gym. And it's awesome. And I beat myself up. I'm like, oh, I'm not in the gym every day. Even though I have one in my garage, 30 steps away, I could be in the gym. I'm like, I'm not in the gym every day. But guess what? I'm in the gym a shit ton more than I ever was the last year and a half without the gym. I'm in there 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm aiming to be more, but I have that eliminated now so I can be as consistent as possible. Boom, 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 boom. But if it was up to me just going to the gym, I'd be like, I'd be like at the gas pump. And I try to get to the gym, but I run out of gas. I forgot to get gas. Like I've just eliminated all of that so I can be at the gym. And same thing with podcasting. We've eliminated all the tedium we can so we can just sit down and have a good conversation. Because running a podcast is not about editing. It's not about the microphones and the cables and the headsets and the lighting and the cameras and the music and the intros and the background music when you select a clip for Instagram. It's not about that at all. If you think it is, if you think it's about the views, if you think it's about all of that, it is later. At some point, those are important, all of those things mentioned, but it's about conversation. It's about storytelling. It's about getting your perspective to the world, to everybody. We live in a weird time right now where everybody in the world can hear from each other. That's not always a good thing, but it's a way better thing than without it, right? I believe so. So it's not about any of that. It's about getting your message out there. But people are defeated so easily by the equipment, by the technical side, by everything, for good reason, because it's hard. It's nuanced, right? Like even in our studio, a piece of software will need to update, or Microsoft updates. Hey, Bill Gates, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the mosquitoes in Florida and the vaccines and all the global warming. Thank you, Bill Gates. But anyway, Microsoft updates screw our studio over half the time. Like, it's stressful. Staying on top of software is like staying on top of every tiny little detail from an audio level, and every interface you got, there's about 1,000 buttons on, and a lot could go wrong. So it's a lot to handle. And so if you can eliminate that by surrounding yourself with a team and also selecting the method in which you record and how you edit and how you set up, it just makes it a very seamless process. If you go talk to any Blueform client, even the people that have stopped using our service for other life circumstances or whatever, they will tell you how easy it was. Oh man, it's great. We just show up. We get free waters. Derek Legg just gets free Mountain Dew whenever he wants. A butler hands it to him with a moist towelette. It's so easy, right? They just show up. The hard part is being consistent, though, because even then, life gets in the way. But I got to shout out Derek Legg. I got to shout out Solid, the guys over there. Like, these guys are the most consistent people. I love them for it. Like, amazing. Derek Legg especially has hit 2 years. Solid, they're a year behind him, but they're, if they could go faster in time, they'd catch him, obviously, because time would go faster, but they're awesome. And so the consistency that they've given this, also the financial commitment that it takes to use a team, that's another thing as well. It is expensive to buy a team or to use a team. It's expensive even to hire somebody and have them learn it, because it takes time and it takes a lot of effort. But commend them just for showing up, and being an amazing podcast guest takes a lot of energy as well. And their skill sets have just improved like crazy. So we love those guys. As well as 435. I got to shout out all of our clients too. 435, Healing Works, you name it, everybody. Cody Adent, blah, 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 everybody. The whole gang. All, Blueform and the gang is what we'll call it. Like, they're just awesome people. And, crap. So, that's why we're talking about this, right? To bring it back. And if you see me doing these solo episodes, I tend to rant a lot. I think there's value in it. I ain't ashamed of it, but I do look at my notes to tie things back into it. So, your recording method is huge. So now let's go a little bit deeper into live production. We've established that's how we use things at Blueform Media. I think it's superior. I think it's better. It's also like, Mal's helped me twice today. She helped me get the distance that I was estimating. Thank you for that. She's also looked up a couple things for me online. So having a producer doing it live is invaluable. And the method in which we do that too is a little bit nuanced. So we take what I like to call the Twitch video game streamer approach. Arigato, gamer. Hi. Probably. But yeah, I used to stream on Twitch. I've told you before in the previous podcast that I have a gaming background. I still love video gaming a lot. And there's a lot of like unknown secrets that the business world needs to know. Like, if you don't know what Discord is like a voice and video platform for meeting and voice chats. It's amazing. And I've thought that. I was like, man, what if my company used Discord? It would be amazing. The interconnectivity in an office, a large company, would be awesome. It's starting to catch on, I think. A lot of companies are using that, especially these AI tool companies. If you have a Discord and you're looking to get connected with AI or learn more about that, go to Discord and you'll find these companies. They have Discords, especially Opus Clip. We love those guys. They've been helping us out. Great AI tool if you're looking to get a lot of short form content out. And anyway, Discord's the place to be. So that's a game that was built by gamers for gamers, and it's got so many uses. A lot of cryptocurrencies use it. That's awesome. And then other assets too, like OBS. It's online broadcasting software that's used by almost every Twitch streamer on the earth. Okay, Twitch streaming and online streaming. If you're doing video games or other things, OBS software is awesome. It's free. And it's open source, I think. So I'm not, maybe it's not open source, but it's free and it's awesome. There are some annoying times where there's updates and things. It has its downfalls for sure. But that's what we started. I was like, I know how to stream on Twitch. Mal, she knows how to do audio. Let's merge them together and join them. We'll join these two things in holy matrimony. We join them in holy matrimony as well, because we are also husband and wife, if you didn't know. And yeah, it's been awesome. So it's kind of this hybrid thing. And so it's not that super secret, but there's softwares out there that allows us to switch camera angles. And we use some video game streaming tools like an Elgato Stream Deck. There's quite a few little switcher options out there too. Stream Deck is awesome. It's basically a 15-key little pad that's fully programmable. So we can program that for camera angles, lighting, sound effects, music. I could play a video. Just go watch twitch.com. So if you're serious about podcasting and you're in the business world, you know nothing about gaming, go watch some productions on live streaming productions on twitch.com. It'll blow your mind. Okay, expand your horizons. Like I say, everybody shits on gaming because it is a waste of time, I'll be honest. But when you understand that a gamer or a competitive gamer can make $3 million by winning a tournament, there's a lot of money, okay? A lot of money, a lot of graphics technology, a lot of stuff you see in the movies, computer graphic imagery or CGI. It's all generated by the drive for the video game industry. Okay, that's why we use Video Game Computers by Xidax Computers. By the way, if you're looking for a Xidax computer, we can get you 3% off with an affiliate link, which we'll probably link in the description. So if you want a high-end gaming computer that you can also use for video editing, any type of creation, video editing, music recording, it's a good place to start. And podcasting as well. You plug in 3 cameras into one of those souped up graphics card fresh off the factory line from Japan. Man, that thing it's banging. It's going fast. So that's what we got. It's just chugging away right now. So we basically hook up using Elgato Stream Decks to control the stream, to control the live production. And with an Elgato Cam Link, you can turn any camera into a webcam basically. And then it's compatible with that software. So that's the method we currently use in this studio. That's what we started with. We're branching out as well. There's another one called a Black Magic, a company called Black Magic. They make an ATEM Mini. ATEM is an acronym. And we'll leave maybe some descriptions in that below as well. We don't use that yet, or I'm familiar with them. They're awesome. But that is a video switcher. So even if you don't have a beefy computer, you can plug in I think up to 4 different camera angles and have them on a switchboard. And all you need is like a little monitor. You can plug in a computer monitor to that switch and you can bounce around. So you could have a guy just bouncing around camera angles doing the live production that we do, but without the big rig. The only thing is you need a hard drive to record straight to. And sometimes I've heard some of the reviews on there. It's hard to see your video quality and understand that it's recorded good because it's just there in that hard drive. And unless you have a computer plugged into it, which I recommend, you can't really see the quality of that recording or do what we call a test record. So almost every session, when we have clients, we spin up all these cameras, we spin everything up. I'll have myself or Mallory will come in here and, wave and test the lighting, and we'll record for about 10 seconds and switch camera angles, check mics, do everything. And it's fantastic. So a little bit nuanced as well. If you're using a video switcher like the Black Magic, or you're using a computer with some broadcasting software, which is what we tend to do, the computer is a little more powerful. I can take all video elements and I can take all audio elements into this OBS software and merge it into one final audio video file, right? Now, if I do the switcher, an ATEM Mini or whatever, there's a ton of different variety that they offer on those switches. If I take one of those, I still have to record the audio separate. So I have a 4-input audio interface of some kind to get 4 microphones up. That needs to be recording, and the ATEM switcher needs to be recording. Now, there is some ways, there's just a lot of ways to connect those two. You can do it, but usually you end up with a separate audio file and a separate video file. So then in the post-production, you have to kind of line those things up. So hopefully this is a good place for you to start. If you don't understand everything we're discussing, good. right? Let's research this stuff. Come to us for more. You could always hit us up on Instagram at Blueform Media. We respond to that all the time. That's probably our main one. But anywhere, comment on our YouTube videos, comment on these things, and we'll get you the information. It will be in the descriptions as well. Everything we've discussed today will be in there. So you can go purchase those for your own or go do some research on them and see how you can build your content factory. Go figure. So that's what we got today about the podcast recording methods. Ask yourself these questions. Am I ready to start? Yes. Start right away. Okay, so how do I want to start? Well, if we all set our phones up, we can get 3 camera angles and we can just muscle through the post-production. Great. How long can you do that for? Realistically, can you do that every week? Can you do it twice a month? Can you do it once a month? Excellent. Also, my personal opinion here, I'll inject in you. Do whatever you got to do to start, but go once a week. Release 1 podcast once a week. Anything else won't build you enough momentum. Plus, if you record a podcast and you commit to once a week, you're just going to be more consistent, obviously, because you're doing more, but you're going to build a habit quicker. If you go 2 to 3 weeks before a podcast drops again, there's a lot that can happen in 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, look what happened during COVID. It was like, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? Yeah, fucking shit, whatever. Yeah, so 2 weeks, a lot can happen. So if you're not releasing episodes once a week, it just makes it harder for you. A lot could happen, something could get in the way. It's easier for you to justify it. What's another week? What's another month? What's another year, right? It's easier to kick that can down the road. So be careful of that. So that's the first thing is start your podcast. Just start it, okay? Now, understand that okay, I can do this for a short amount of time, but I need to eliminate some of this tedium. I need to refine the process, right? Because there is a reason why this podcast is called Your Content Factory. A factory, if staffed properly and run smoothly and maintenance is done, a good factory can run 24/7, right? Go do some research about the strong women that filled those roles in the factory during World War II. They were working all the time. Well-oiled machines, efficient, awesome. Okay, every good factory is going to do that. So that's what we're here to do. How can we get your content as easy of a process built around that content as possible? It's building a factory line. So yeah, I can start my podcast today, but how long can I continue doing that? Okay, well, start it, commit to that level of work, but let's refine it. Let's dial in the audio. Let's dial in your recording methods. Let's do some investment. Spend some time in investment and invest in your message, right? And that's why anybody that's working with us, I commend you for investing in your message, investing in your brand, and investing in your perspective on life. You believe it's worthwhile enough to spend money with us to help this process, and we are honored to do that with you. We love all you guys. And if you're thinking about doing business with you, we love you too. Come on in. But that's super important. So picking your recording method, right? Once you've decided to start, picking that podcast recording method, I suggest going live. And who knows, you guys might be in a situation where you might have to do a more traditional recording. That's fine too. We've done that on occasion, right? Jeff and Brandon was solid. It's funny that I'm wearing their hat today and I brought them up so much, but they're going hunting and I'm kind of their go-to cameraman because I love the outdoors and being in the Marines. I love being outside. I sleep better anywhere. I don't sleep good anywhere except on the ground. Give me a rock for a pillow and I sleep like a baby for some reason. I don't know why. That fresh mountain air just gets me. So they offer to go hunting and I'm going on an elk hunt with them and we're going to do a podcast, but it's going to be recorded in a very traditional method, right? A couple cameras, audio, and then I'm going to bring all of those elements in and spend some hours on the footage there doing it. But that's worth it if it's every now and then, if it's a cool venue, if it's a great location. It's kind of like the equivalent when a radio station, they go break down shop and then they go set up in the back of a van at like the state fair or something like that, and you'll see the radio stations. But it's kind of like that. So both methods are valid. One I think is easier to do more consistently. It just takes a little bit of a team to do it. Not even a little bit, just one person, and you're set. 90% of your podcast production is done by the time you press stop on that recording. So that's what we recommend. Again, if you want consulting or anything like this for us to help you build out a studio, we do that as well. We have yet to been invited like out of state, but we have built, $5,000-$10,000 studios in the state of Utah. If you want to pay for us to fly out to you, if you're hearing this, something, we will come set this up for you. And then we can remotely train using some other gamer tools like Discord and some other ones. I can remotely train another producer to do what we do at your studio location. So just keep that in mind. Mal, how are we doing on time? An hour? What? Shit. Time flies when you're talking about podcast production. I felt like I repeated myself quite a bit, and I hope that's good. I hope it sticks to your brain. But yeah, let's eliminate all the tedium out of this process. In a factory, that factory has to be as efficient as possible. So regarding your content factory, where are you getting hung up on? Right? Are you the one doing the editing? Let's hire an editor. Right? Go on Fiverr.com, get somebody cheap. Go find people. There's people in other countries that would love some American dinero, some dollar bills. And they love that American dollar. And they are highly talented editors from India, from Pakistan, from Philippines. We've met them all. Virtual assistants, if you go find them, there's tools out there. They could do that. So if you want someone to edit those things, you can. If you want a full team around you, come to us. We'd love to help you out. So let's go ahead and wrap that episode up. Next episode, we're going to have a guest on, and we'll go from there. But we're just chugging forward. Please like and share. I hope this was useful. If there's something I totally forgot, if you guys are already podcast gurus and you're watching this, dunk on me, dude. Dunk on me, bro. Like, let me know. We want to know too. So, shit on my process. I want to make it better. So please, light these comments up. Get them going. Maybe do I look like an idiot? Let me know. I'll get some more hair products, to fix it. So make me better and reach out. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit the bell button, whatever the hell they say on YouTube these days. And just remember, Blueform Media, we are the foundation for your content creation. And thanks for tuning into your content factory. Let's get rid of that tedium. I'm out.